Evening, folks. Good evening, morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is Variety Sports Network, and this is football from across the pond. Joined as always, Johnny with us. Good evening, Johnny. How are you doing, Chief? We got Craigie, Craigie fully kitted out, and he's fully head-to-toe Green Bay kit today.
Always, Gary. How are you?
Not too bad. Good to see you, buddy. And I see Sam's representing the Rams nicely this week.
Yeah.
You'd be wearing bandages if you were representing the Rams this week, though, I think, Sam.
Yeah, I think I'd be. Well, that is probably the right thing to wear at the moment. I've got a tissue by the side of me. Maybe that's probably best represents them.
Best represents how you're feeling about it. Yeah. But Craig, I mean, we're going to have to go back to you. Last week we were talking about where the Packers are, where you're looking and stuff, and you were talking about the potential change under centre after the bye week and stuff. So you called it early. I mean, it might have been a week earlier than we were expecting, but he's in. We've got your boy in. I mean, how are you feeling? Love hurts.
It sure does. Yeah. I mean, it was from injury, that one, wasn't it? I called it. I said we're going to see Love, and out it came. But I still say after the bye week, it's going to be his team after the bye week. Whether it's the last we'll see Rodgers or not, who knows? But I think we're going to see Love this year, and I'm looking forward to doing so, to be honest with you.
He did still look okay once he came on the field. He certainly sparked a bit, didn't he?
It looked pretty good to me. It was the touchdown pass to Watson was a great pass. Found him very well, and off Watson went to the races. So it didn't look as bad as I thought it was going to look. So you never know.
I mean, the thing with him is you don't know what he's going to look like, do you? Because you haven't seen him. You haven't had the chance to see anything about him. So I guess you've got to, in a weird way, got to hope that the injury is enough to give him a run, or do you think it's already going to? He's already called it. He's going to be the starter next week, or?
I mean, I think if Rodgers is fit for Sunday, he's going to play against the Bears. I thought the bye week was this week, to be honest with you. We're going into the Bears the week after, so I got that mixed up last week. But I very much believe that if Rodgers is fit this week, he'll play. But I think he'll tap himself out after that. The playoffs are a forlorn hope now, so I think we'll see Love after the bye week, and he'll see out the season. Whether it's the last of Rodgers or not, we'll see. But I certainly think they have to see what we've got with Love, because he's 5th-year options coming up.
Yeah, you're in a similar situation to the 49ers, aren't you? You've had this rookie guy. He's never had a chance to run. He's never had a chance to play. You don't know what you've got, and he's coming up for his contract year. And if you don't make the decision now, what do you do? I know you're stuck with Rodgers next year, basically, because he's got however many millions guaranteed, 60-odd million guaranteed for next year, if he sticks around. So, but then, as you say, you're in that just awkward decision, because if you don't pick up Love next year and you don't pick up his option, you're taking a punt, you're punting, back to square one, taking a punt in a draft in the hope that you can, get a decent draft pick or something. So it's an interesting couple of weeks coming up.
Well, it very much is, and I think it's one of those ones. If we go with Love in the last 4 games, and we absolutely bomb and we lose all 4 of them, and we end the season, kind of 5-12 or 4-13. If that's how we end the season, and we've got a kind of early draft pick, I think that you're more likely to see Rodgers hang about for that, because you'll think early draft pick, early round pick, early pick every round. We might have a chance of doing something again next year, so that might help Rodgers stick around. So maybe we want to win a few of these last games.
It's like you don't want to win too many, but you want to win enough for him to go, not really worth hanging around. So it's a balancing act.
That's pretty much where I'm sitting at the moment. I've got to be honest about it. I've just had enough of the nonsense, the off the field nonsense now, Gary. It overtakes every single season, and I know he's been brilliant for it. But it's getting too much now, he's clearly not exactly the most liked person in the dressing room either, and that goes a long way.
And I think you're right, as you say, every year, every off-season, you get the Rodgers drama of will he, won't he, is he being traded, is he going somewhere else, or is there some other toys out the pram moment that he's had, a whatever. And the locker room, even as fans, you're getting fed up with it. So how are the rest of your locker room feeling about it as well? So another year of that, can you really put up with that? Can it really be worth it?
That's exactly it. But the problem in Green Bay Packers have is it's not us. It's the contract that we've got with Rodgers. It's completely up to him. If he wants to come back, then he's due $60 million, and he's coming back, and that's just the way it is.
Could be an expensive bench warmer, couldn't he?
Can you not play Aaron Rodgers? I don't think you can do that.
Yeah,
I think
it would be a brave head coach if they decided to bench Aaron Rodgers and went with
very much so. But I do think if he comes back, it'll be it'll be the last ride, and everyone will know it's the last ride. This is it. Last year, let's go see what we can do. You've got some early-ish picks, and go and see what you can do and see if you can win one last one before you go.
It would be interesting, I suppose, from a trade and what the free agency and whatever else they would do. Would the Packers as an organization go, right, one last hurrah year and go and try and get Rodgers a few, stars around him just to go him up, much like the Rams did, go big, go home type thing. Let's have one big year. It'd be interesting to see if they went out and shopped around big.
I would be surprised. We really would need to be honest. I mean, the defense is. I thought going into this season, our defense was really quite strong. I really did. I mean, did you see that second the touchdown that Philadelphia scored just at the start of the second quarter? It was just from like the 1 yard line, but there was no point in us even lining up there for all that we did to try and stop them. I mean,
it was almost a gimme, wasn't it? It was literally a gimme.
And it's like, that's why even there if you're not going to at least try and stop them. The defence has got a lot of problems as well, which took me by surprise this year, I've got to say.
So that's your quick wrap. I know you're feeling well. How are you feeling about going into the Bears game, though? Do you think it's because it's the Bears, you've had their number?
You would like to think so. I mean, it's the Bears, Would I be surprised if we lost it? Honestly, no. Very disappointed, but I would not be surprised. I thought if we lose this game, I'm not sure we'll win again this season. So, with 4 wins on the board, we might be up, first pick, second pick. There's not many that are doing awful. So
there's not many worse than that at the moment.
It'd be about time we got an early pick.
Yeah. Speaking of teams doing worse than the Packers, though, I thought I had to. This had to almost sum up your season in one clip.
Yeah.
I mean, for my personally, I had to love the fact that the player was wearing 49. It's a little bit extra touch from my side, but it was just the classic of this. Your head coach getting concussed by your own on the side
by a rookie as well. It's even better.
Yeah. It was something special, but
it was a bit extra, wasn't it? But it kind of does sum up the kind of injuries that you're being decimated by at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, we've now obviously lost Aaron Donald for potentially for the year. We don't know if it's going to be for the year, but he's got a high ankle sprain, so that could be him. I mean, we could just shut him down for the year. I don't see the point in potentially risking a much more serious injury. Obviously, there's talks that we're going to shut down Stafford. So. And Allen Robinson's now out for the season, so we're down to wide receiver.
Literally
3,
bare
4,
bones, aren't you?
Yeah, we're down to wide receiver 3, 4, and 5. We're down to QB 3. We're down to. I think this will be if we manage to get the O line out this week, it'll be the first time we've got an O line out in 12 weeks. That isn't a different makeup from the previous 11 weeks. So yeah, it's but we only kept the Chiefs to 1 touchdown, so
there's got to be there's silver linings or gold linings.
And one thing I obviously said to you guys is I did want to. I mean, there's obviously a lot of bad with the Rams at the moment, but I wanted to bring out some elements of the good. Bryce Perkins had a great drive for the touchdown, and to see
You
him
seem to
give
have found a running game in the last couple of weeks as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've this two weeks in a row we've ran for over 100, rushed for over 100 yards. Kyron Williams seems to be stepping up. I think he's down as RB1 for this week. So, I think and to be honest, going into the Seahawks match, I think actually having a rushing game is probably going to actually benefit us because it's probably their weakest area.
Yeah.
You
can definitely get after the Seahawks on the run. So.
Yeah. So I mean, I mean, Perkins is a quite a versatile runner with the ball as well. So if we can get him out of the pocket, get some deep balls down to Van Jefferson, get Skoranek involved, get all elements of the offense involved, and just it's time to experiment. We're not going to get anywhere probably better than I think probably 6-11 is probably the best I think we're probably going to get now this year. So now's the time to experiment and give those rookies and those sort of fringe players a chance to play and prove themselves.
Yeah.
Before we
As you say, there's certainly no point bringing back Donald. I can't see why would you if your season's done and dusted now. Really, there's nothing you're playing for. Why bring him back for it the last week or two just to potentially make it worse for next year? That would be pointless. And if Stafford's in that issue, with the injury arm, was that elbow ever really right? The concussion and everything else. I mean, do you think there's a chance that he might just call it a day?
I mean, there's every possibility he will, but I mean, he obviously won the ring with us in the first year. Does he really want to go out on a second year? I've been having such a bad season. If we can get him some O linemen that might, benefit him, I think, it shows that I think the rushing game has obviously massively improved this year towards the end of this year. That's a positive. Cup coming back would be a big positive. If we can finally get, Robinson, either trade Robinson or get him into the team a bit more. I think we've got some good other young wide receivers. I think there's enough there. I think to keep
tempt him back.
Tempted to come back. Yeah.
Do you know what? Much like you were saying with Craig, that Rodgers' contract next year is guaranteed for however many stupid amounts of money. Is Stafford on a guaranteed next year as well?
I believe so, but certainly not to the level that Rodgers is. I know I think his contract runs out 2024. I think so. I think Cups runs out in 2020. No, they've all done. Cups runs out 2 years later, so 26. I think Donald's is 26. So yeah, I mean.
Any fear that Donald will retire, Sam? I mean, he was thinking about it after the Super Bowl last year, and McVay too. The commentary box is calling McVay's name all the time. You think
easy money from Amazon, isn't it? There's a lot of money sloshing around for punditry and commentary. So,
I think if they decided to go, they won't be remembered for the Super Bowl win. They'll be remembered for this season. Yeah. And I don't think any of them want that. I think they would rather come back, make a concerted push next year, and then potentially go. I can't see, because it would be a much better story, especially for all of them, to win the Super Bowl, have the worst year ever of a Super Bowl team, and then come back and either win it again.
Donald wouldn't like that.
No,
they don't want to go out on that. That's not the record year they want to be going out on, is it?
No. So I think knowing who they are as individuals and knowing who McVay is as a person, I think he'll say to them, look, we all need to come back next year. We all need to push and we all need to sort it out, because I think there's a lot of people that are looking at the Rams and thinking, you bought that Super Bowl ring and now you're screwed for the next 10, 15 years. And I think
there's a lot of bitterness. There's a lot of karma has come back to bite you. There's a lot of people going, this is what happens when you buy your way to the success and whatever else. So I don't think, as you say, those players don't want to be, I say, tarnished with it, because they're all great players and they have a Super Bowl ring and stuff like that. There's a number there you certainly expect Donald to be first ballot Hall of Famer, but will they want to go out with that sort of slight tarnish to their reputation? Probably not. I think they're all going to come back. As you say, there's enough even from our side of it, even from me, you'd think there's enough momentum and there's enough things to tell those guys about how bad this year was to give them enough motivation to come back to prove that it's not a flash in a pan 1 year wonder.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously losing that, obviously not having that first round pick is, especially if we are going to be sort of potentially likely to be top 10 pick. It's not great, but then you've got to think, well, you're looking at a top 10 second round, third round, and I think it's understated how important in the draft that those picks can be. And I mean, even a high second, you could potentially trade up and get a sneaky first, and pick up a player that you may not have picked up in the second. So I think there's grounds for, yes, it's not ideal that we don't have a first. Is there the potential that we could maybe trade someone like Ramsey for a first? He hasn't looked exactly great this year, but he is still, I think, he's still a Pro Bowler. He's still a potential.
Teams will still give stuff up for him, but will they give up what you're asking, what you want for him?
I think there is the option that we could look to potentially trade a few. I know there's a lot of ramblings at the moment of Rams fans wanting Allen Robinson gone, wanting Van Jefferson gone.
Surely you'd want them actually on the field rather than gone, because you haven't seen any.
I think the problem with Robinson is I think we were treated well when Cup and Woods were there, that when Cup wasn't great, Woods would step in. And
Robinson wasn't.
Robinson's not been able to do that, and I think that's pure. I mean, for me, it's purely an O-line issue. But I think if you can get a fit O-line, you can get a couple of top O-line players into that team. Maybe sort of look at drafting a few, other positions. I mean, if Bryce Perkins can prove himself, I think he's a capable number 2, and just add a bit more depth and grit to that O-line, I think would be, I don't see why we couldn't go back and do something like what we did, last season.
And you certainly wouldn't expect to do the same as this year. This you'd hope would be an anomaly and a one-off, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think it's been one of those seasons where if you want something to go wrong, it goes wrong, and then everything just falls apart around it, and that's all that's happened. I mean, like you say, it pretty much typifies the fact that we've got so many injuries, and then McVay gets absolutely clattered by a rookie wearing the 49 jersey. It really does sort of sum up what the Rams have been through. But yeah, I have no worries for next year if we can draft well, get that O-line fit, get a couple of maybe something. I would probably say maybe an elite left tackle. I think you could be looking at another good season. Maybe not a winnable season, maybe not a Super Bowl, but
in and around
back on track sort of thing.
Yeah.
Silver linings too, Sam, for McVay and the back office staff. If the Lions win a Super Bowl in the next 5 years, they'll be on a promise of a ring, surely.
Yeah, that's true.
It must be. I mean, the Lions at the moment are sitting pretty, aren't they? Because they've got your first round pick, and your first round pick now is looking pretty tasty.
Yeah.
Potentially 2 top 5 picks for the Lions next year.
I mean, a lot of people have been very sort of obviously commenting very much on the fact that this trade is now flipped in terms of it's made it the trade has worked out for the Lions better than it has the Rams. But my argument to that is we got a ring out of it.
The Super Bowl.
You got what you wanted. You got a ring.
Exactly. You get the Super Bowl, that far outweighs the potential kind of first round, second round, and whatever else. Because we all know that how many first rounders really hit the mark, how many really give you what you want.
And realistically, who are they going to pick? I mean, who are they going to be looking at in terms of picking up? I think there's a massive talk that they're going to replace Goff anyway. So.
I mean, it's the ring is special, so at the end of the day, the ring is a special thing. There's teams out there that have never won one, So the ring is special. I still say the Rams won out the deal because they got a ring.
The Super Bowl champion, you can't take that away.
you don't really know right now, though, because, you know, if the Lions go and get a ring in the next 5 years, then they've won out of it too. But the Rams definitely won out the deal. They got themselves Super Bowl.
Yeah, and did it in the first year of trading away for Stafford. I mean, you couldn't have asked for anything better. So,
you get the instant response, then, don't you? You get proof of the pudding as such. Is, you know, everyone shouted and complained about it, but hey, at the end of the day, who sat there in the Super Bowl champions? Hello, Rams. I mean, done dusted. It doesn't matter who the Detroit Lions eventually get 2-3 years down the line, and the potential that first rounder may or may not have, and may or may not become whatever. It's all that ifs, buts, and maybes. They can never take away the fact that you now have 2 rings. You were a Super Bowl champion. It's there. It's done. It's dusted. So,
and I mean, that for me is what is that's the most important thing, is the fact that it doesn't matter how well the Lions do now. For me, we've won out of that trade. So
yeah, you won a ring. Always.
Johnny,
definitely.
How are you feeling, mate? You're on a bit of a slippery slope with the Giants. You're in a horrible sort of run-in as well, aren't you? You didn't do too well against the Cowboys over Thanksgiving. You got a bit of a
with a good first half, but I'm still not too sure about going for it in your end of your own half on 4th down, and you could pin them away back in their own 20 and make them work for it. Because after that, it's got 21 points unanswered, and
it was a bit of a momentum shift, wasn't it?
You know, they can't just punt the ball away because the defense was doing well against them, and they were making them work for it. Instead of giving them a 40-yard, they could have got a 9-yard drive, and they would have scored 14 points instead of 21 points. It would have been a lot closer. So
yeah,
it was a bit of a strange. But again, if it works off, it's a genius. But when you're not playing that great as it is anyway, like, you're better just punting the ball away. So
you got to play safety. You got to play the safe numbers, don't you, at that sort of occasion?
And
but, you know,
they'll have, like I say, they'll have a tough game against Washington because Heineke is not playing great, like, but their defense is stepping up a bit, and they're finding ways to win.
Yeah, their defense seems to have really stepped up over the last sort of 2 or 3 games, really.
Yeah,
Chase Young back either. So. But yeah, so it'll be a tough game. But.
And then when your running's not looking so great either, is it? You've got
we've got Washington twice. We've got the Eagles twice, Minnesota, and the Colts. So no, it's not a good running. But like I say, it's been a great season. Again, we've got 7 wins. I was only expecting 4 or so at the start of the year, so it's a bonus. And beating the Packers when we were at the game's even better. Like, so.
Yeah. So you got the highlights. Yeah, couldn't let it go. I don't blame you for getting that.
I got my 3rd trip to see the Giants, my 3rd win, so I can't really.
Lucky. You must be their lucky mascot. Then you should turn up to every game. They probably want you, and I'm sure, given half the chance, you
would be too happy. Like
when you say
but
boss,
no, it's like
Mrs. Friend.
No. Well, the missus and my boss. Yeah. I work weekends, but no, it's been a great season, and like we'd easily lose every game to the end of the season, but we still had a good season, better than what we expected. I mean, we'll probably have to keep Jones next year. Can't even have a doctor the 5th-year option. Have to pay him something. Yeah, and they might franchise tag Barkley, but
I think you're going to have to try and draft a couple of wide receivers.
Somebody who can catch the ball.
Maybe we can trade Robinson for Galladay, and you can have him. Although he might be like Tony and start catching the ball, like, you know, I mean, get in the field and actually catching the bloody thing.
I mean, I was watching. It was a podcast that OC and Jason Bell were doing, and they were talking obviously about the big Dallas Giants match. You know, the OBJ match, I suppose is how they were referring to it as. And it was quite interesting. They were talking about it. It was saying that, I mean, it's likely that Dallas he'll go to Dallas. I mean, obviously, whatever's happened with the aeroplane issue, but they were saying that Dallas Cowboys don't need OBJ. They want OBJ, whereas the Giants need OBJ.
And need OBJ for this year and next as well.
A lot of fans don't actually want OBJ though.
Don't want him back
the way he left.
Because of.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I'd love to have him back. I thought he was a brilliant player, but
I think for me, I think
the Bills. So
it's his. At the end of the day, it will be his decision. But the way they were putting it out is, does he want to win? Does he simply just want to win another ring, and just be that, this new wide receiver who just goes around and picks up rings wherever he can? Or does he want to set a legacy for his name and, go somewhere like go back to the Giants, re-establish his name there, and have that story about him where he can,
rejuvenate the franchise.
He left on bad terms. They've got a decent enough QB who can throw to him. They've got a star running back. They've got a decent defensive line. I think if he goes back there, it could be a nice story to sort of to go with.
If he goes back in, as you say,
it would help in the running.
Yeah, that's a big if though, because the flip side of that is OBJ is OBJ. I'm not saying he's much like he's AJ Brown, but he's of that mold. And in the New York,
I think he's actually he has matured a lot since he was at the Giants. Ken, he's not as crazy as he was. Ken, when he goes, but
not like getting arrested on planes, for example.
Yeah,
I was
that's just a football player. That thing, like, I mean,
but sounds like it, doesn't it?
I was quite surprised about the whole because obviously before he joined the Rams, there was a lot of noise about how he was, obviously all the issues with his dad and all of that, and how he was a bit of a not a crazy character, but a difficult person.
Every time you watched him,
every time you watched him on like the Rams sideline or in the dressing room, he was very quiet. Like he didn't seem like he was in with like Cup and that. He played his games and that, but he never seemed, I don't know, like he was any trouble. And that
seemed to be like firecracker, look out, the guy on the sideline
like
being
he used to be,
or whatever. Yeah, so that's definitely.
He just seemed to be like he was getting on with his job. He was, and just calm. He looked calm. I think that was probably and I think from my perspective, obviously not watching the NFL probably as long as you guys, I didn't get the noise around him in terms of
didn't get the difficult aspect.
Yeah, things were going well. That's the thing. Things were going well.
He was, they were throwing it to him. They were using him.
Imagine what he would have been like this year.
Yeah. Well, I think you're having a spare goal with a kick in net again.
And what the Giants are like, it can easily swing the other way very, very quickly, And if he goes to the Giants, it is a building process still at the Giants. They're not the article yet,
But I think he is looking for a couple-year contract. He's not looking like for a year. So it all depends.
Whereas I think the Dallas are looking at just
like a 2-3 year contract.
Right.
If you go to the Giants, it's what, like a 3-year contract just to basically finish up with the Giants. But whether they want to give him that.
I can't imagine. I mean, like say Dallas. I think Dallas will want him till the end of the year, and that's it. Because
they just want a ring.
They don't need him after that. And that's the trouble he's going to fall into. He's either going to become that single year guy who just joins
up, mercenary, get a trophy and then go again. Doesn't build the team around him.
Or he becomes, almost like towards the end of his career, franchise wide receiver, the star man sort of thing.
But then again, you've got to work it out. I mean, he's 30 now, coming off of a pretty bad knee injury. What's he going to be like?
Yeah.
He's had a couple now. He's not going to be. He may not be the OBJ of old. He may not be capable of some of the stuff that maybe with the, the slightly blue tinted glasses you're wearing there, Johnny, from when his first time around the Giants, or where he was pretty good for the Rams. He may not be able to do that anymore. Who knows? I mean, it could be all of this noise, and he's could be very good PR from the OBJ camp just to drum up everybody. All these teams who want him, and they're winning. He's going to take the teams to the ring and to the big one. He might turn up and be absolutely stink.
Well, obviously the one right thing, if he signs for Dallas just till the end of the year, we won't have to play against him again, probably.
No, there is that plus point. See, it's always a silver lining.
Yeah.
It's definitely a silver lining. I knew you could find one somewhere.
But then, I think the Bills are maybe trying to get him as well, because obviously they might want an extra receiver. They've got plenty already, but they'll be wanting them to the end of the year to try and get a ring.
Literally just a plug-in, just to elevate them up, isn't it?
All those teams that'll want him, that are wanting him, apart from maybe the Giants, it's all a single-year contract. They need him to sort of, be that star third receiver to get them over the line. They're not looking at him thinking he's going to be the new wide receiver 2, because
building a receiving core around him, are they?
No, the Bills have obviously Diggs as their number 1. They have Gabe Davis, who has been really good as number 2, and even Isaiah McKenzie has been really good at wide receiver 3. So, if you're going to bring him in, he's going to be someone to come in and bring in for special plays and be that sort of other special player. So, yeah, I mean, he could decide. I mean, if he really wants to, he could always wait a year and join the Rams again.
It sounded a bit desperation there from you, Sam, to be honest. It sounded like a vain hope on your side there.
He's not coming back.
Well, he could sign for Dallas, get fit again, then join the Rams after the season.
Yeah.
I was pretty annoyed last year.
Again.
I genuinely thought we were going to pull the trigger for him. I thought we were finally going to sign one.
I think the only reason we got him was Von Miller. Von Miller did his magic on him, and straight away
you picked up those two. It was one after the other, wasn't it? Or did you get them both in the same sort of week or something?
We got Von Miller, and then I think we just signed OBJ, and then Robert Woods went down with his career, his season-ending injury. So we kind of had to pull the trigger at that point. So yeah, it kind of worked out for the best in a way. And now he's. I
wonder if it's the Von Miller side in Buffalo now that it's kind of giving that Buffalo rumor some legs, because it happened before. Do you reckon it's kind of happening again? Is that just lazy rumor journalism, or is that actually is there something in it? It'd be interesting to. And I suppose in one way it'd be nice for it to be done as well, because we're getting into December now. We're getting into the nitty gritty of football season, and it's kind of will he, won't he, where will he go story is a bit. I won't say it's distracting for some teams, but it can start to get a bit like, just want to get into the football. You just want to start talking about what's happening on the field, not all the noise off the field. Although this week, let's be honest, most of the talk is going to be about somebody returning to the field after all of the off-field issues that he's gone through. So that's going to be an interesting story.
And against his old team.
And against his old team, who are absolutely stinking up the league at the moment. So will he come back and... Yeah, you've got to hope that they want to go out and smack him in the face and put him in the ground a bit. But and as you say, most of the rest of the NFL probably feel the same sort of way. But will it be the returning messiah for the Browns? Will it be the chance for them to push on, because they're not fully out of the picture yet? They've kind of hung around enough to be sort of in the picture. So.
I think they have an outside chance, don't they?
But have they not got quite a hard running after this game? I'm pretty sure the running after this game is not the easiest running for somebody coming back after 2 years. So it's not.
Who also in pre-season looked like he forgot how to play football.
Well, this is the thing as well. He's coming off 2 years of not being involved in, full 100% speed NFL football. And I mean, look at what it's not easy when you see these players coming back from ACLs and that, who are out for a year, and that how difficult it is for them to get up to speed. Imagine what it's going to be like having 2 years out. It is. I think people are going to be surprised that it's going to be the same with Calvin Ridley. I think it's going to be an interesting time when he comes back as to whether he manages to,
just slot back in and go again. Yeah, but I mean, I think the Browns have got. Well, I mean, they've got no choice. He has to walk into the starting position with the money, the guaranteed where he's on. So it's going to be. Shall we say the atmosphere is going to be pretty toxic in that game? I should imagine.
Is it at Houston or
is it at Houston?
I think it's at Cleveland. I've got a feeling it might be.
Yeah, I think it's in Cleveland.
I think it's Houston I think it's the Texans at the Browns, isn't it? I think.
For the Browns, I don't even think the Browns will be looking at this year now. I think they're looking and they're saying, look, 6 games, blow off the cobwebs, find your again.
Oh no, the game's in Houston. So it's in Houston.
So that's going to be a rough environment to come into.
That'll be loud. Yeah.
Toxic.
And there'll be. I should imagine there'll be some interesting signage in the crowd.
Be worth it just to watch that.
Do you hope that there'll be some amusing sort of massage tables being brought as wind up and stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting that, you know, it's almost like a forgotten story with the football's kind of taken over for the last 10 or 12 weeks. But now suddenly it's like, oh, that's happening now. It's back out. It's coming. It's here. It's, you know, it was always when it first came out, it was 12 weeks. And that means that, you know, he returns to the Texans game. I remember when it happened now, you know, it was like, oh, it had to be the Texans he came back against. And then it just got forgotten about with all the other stories and the ins and outs. But then, you know, now it's here and it's be difficult to ignore it. And as you say, it's going to be one loud environment in Houston, even though the Texans are playing, it's just not very good football, but you expect them to turn up for this one, right?
But if they don't turn up for this one, then they're not going to win again this season. That's for sure. You know, I'm not saying they have to go out. They want to go out and win the game, but it can't be a blowout or anything silly like that. If it's, I think that's bye everyone in the tech. You know, Lovie Smith, Chile bye.
The whole lot would have to go, wouldn't it? You'd have to clean house if that's. I mean, they're bad enough right now, but if they don't even bother with that one, then you've got to think there's something deeply rooted problematic there that might have to need a full shift.
It's, I mean, they really have flipped in the last kind of 3, 4, 5 years. The Texans, you know, they were always a kind of stable up at there, doing really well, especially, you know, when they got Watts in these younger years. They were right, you know, JJ Watt and stuff, and they've just slipped into complete obscurity now. It's
they made some really bizarre trades. I mean, they traded DeAndre Hopkins away for David Johnson, didn't they? Which is it was a really weird trade that, like, everyone, it was very left field. And then obviously David Johnson was utterly dreadful.
Yeah.
Obviously the Watson debacle that they had there. I mean, it was, and then obviously JJ Watt leaving. It was just, it was one thing after another, I think, in the Texans. They just seemed to implode.
Exactly, they did seem to, and it could be that they end up being, I don't know, I mean, I'm thinking to Johnny and Craig more than you here, Sam, but they could end up being like the Buccaneers of our younger years, where they were just dreadful for 10 years, you know, just absolutely awful for 10, 12 years. It was a guaranteed 2 wins against the Buccaneers if you ever had the Buccaneers on your schedule. They were the worst team ever. I mean, then the Browns kind of took over, but, you know, they could be where the Texans are heading. They'll still be there, but they're always going to be, you know, first or second in the draft pick. They're always going to be just rubbish for a long time until maybe something happens.
And it's just the fact that they don't do anything with these first and second picks, you know, and they do it, they just never do it. And that's exactly where, like, they seem to be heading. They've had the first couple of, you know, early picks for the last couple of years, and they've done diddly with them. Pierce maybe being an except, you know, is Pierce going to maybe be something? But he's not going to be something there if they've not got an O-line to make holes for him and stuff, you know. And
who did they pick up this first year? I'm trying to think who they actually picked up in the first round pick.
I can't. Yeah, I don't even.
Didn't they take a quarterback? No,
it's
a defensive. Was that a cornerback? No,
I think Sauce was the highest cornerback they went, wasn't he?
Yeah, I can't even remember.
Was it the guy that was being touted to be picked above Aiden Hutchinson, wasn't it?
Yeah,
the fast edge rusher, the other defensive tackle, something like that. It was.
I cannot even remember who the
I can't remember the draft half the time now, especially not the first round of it.
Let's have a look.
I do like our edge rusher that we took in the first round is looking on Gray Walker's looking like
they got Derek Stingley.
That was it. Is Derek Stingley's a cornerback, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a cornerback.
Yeah. It was Trayvon Walker was who I was thinking of, but he went first pick.
He went to Jacksonville. Yeah.
He went to Jacksonville. It's interesting that Hutchinson and Walker are all starting.
Yeah, because Sauce Gardner was the second quarter. Yeah, Sauce Gardner went number 4. So.
Yeah, Hutchinson's looking good as well. I think Hutchinson's looking really good in Detroit. I mean, it actually really does worry me how, you know, where Detroit are at the moment. I think they're now starting to kind of build something, you know. They've got a decent running back room, you know. They've got Williams just coming back off the injury. They've got St. Brown out there. The defence is looking. I know that it's awful, but
it's not far off. It's not far off from being okay, isn't it? It's just it's a bit porous right now. But
and if they're going to have a couple of real early picks next year as well to make it even better, you know. So it's I'm starting to get
and
Lions.
And as you say, their record doesn't do them a lot of justice this year. They've lost games by the odd point or the 3 or whatever else. And as you say, their defense has given up some chunk plays and given up a lot of points. You know, if they had a slightly tighter, slightly better defense, they've put points on the board against everybody.
Yeah.
So, you know, their offense is rolling. So it's an interesting year or two for Detroit, how they're.
I think the whole team just, I don't know what it is, but they love playing for Dan Campbell. I think Dan Campbell has proven, yes, they may not be the best team. Yes, they may not have individually the best players, but they just seem to just want to play for him.
It's the archetypal run through a wall, isn't it, for him?
And that's
the sort of guy you want to play for, though. I'd want to play for him, to be honest. I can't even play again.
And, you know, we've all seen Hard Knocks. We've all feel the same about it, don't you? That's not hurt the soft spot, I suppose, that people have got for Detroit, because they've all watched it. They've all seen that, you know, he's a man, you know, he's the kind of coach that you'd want to go and play for. And it's showing in the team. They are out there, you know, balling out. They don't often get the luck their way, or they can't make the stop that needed or whatever else. So, you know, but they were just on a 3 or 4 game winning streak. So
they have. It's been a couple of heartbreakers they've had as well. You know, they're so close to being in the shout this year. So they're a couple of early picks in it. It's
not looking good for you, is it?
It's the Lions always find a way to lose. You know, that's what I always say about the Lions. They're a good team at finding a way to lose with, you know, games that they've won. But they're starting to turn that around just a little bit now, and
could be all change. It could be all change in the north. Yeah.
The Bears are looking pretty decent as well, you know, for the next year or two.
Fields is looking good.
Fields is good. I wouldn't say the Bears are looking good, but Fields is starting to.
Fields is looking good. I'm not convinced by a lot of the Bears players. I still think Darnell Mooney has. I mean, I know he's on IR now for the rest of the year. I still think there's. I don't know. I'm not sure about him. The rest of their wide receiver core. I mean, Claypool's okay, but the rest is just utterly useless. Byron Pringle's not working.
You know, that's fixable. Yeah. And the Bears aren't scared to go and pick up agency players. You know, they're not don't necessarily have to do in the draft. They've been known to trade in. You know, so it's fixable. But they have some pieces there. You know, the pieces are starting to get put in place. You know, it's. The Vikings will always be the Vikings the way they are. Well, look at Kirk Cousins and Jefferson and that there, and Cook there. You know, they'll be thereabouts all the time. They've had the flip side of the Lions. They've had the luck in quite a few games. You know, where they've won games that they should have lost. So it's it's looking like it could be turning upside down and off very soon.
Just, you know, the joy of the NFL, though, it happens in any league, in any division, doesn't it? You know, it's just talked about the Buccaneers being absolutely dreadful for years, and now they're kind of the strength in the South, although the South at the moment is not, it's a shocking division, isn't it? But it's just the joys of it. And, you know, I think from a perspective of the way that the draft and the way that the teams, I mean, it's slightly different now with free agency and the fact that teams are able to almost go out like the Rams and buy a team if they've got the budget and whatever else. It's taken away that natural cycle of up and down and teams being bad and coming back and being okay. It's kind of slightly gone, but it's still, it needs that shake up every now and again. I think the North being the next one due for a shake up. I think, you know, the AFC, you know, where the West is now is sitting pretty with, that's turned around for us in terms of the last couple of games, you know, overtaken Seattle now, just shut out the Saints. Defense is looking like nobody's going to score against us no matter what. So I think interesting couple of games for us coming up against the Dolphins and the Bucs.
Yeah, a tough one against the Dolphins.
It wouldn't surprise me if the Dolphins won that match.
No, their offense is just so high powered. Just and you know the ins and outs of it. You know, I was listening to one of the podcasts and it was like, Mike McDaniel doesn't need to do any scouting for this week. He knows the offense. He knows the defense. He knows the players he's coming up against. He doesn't need his analyst to go out and go, Fred Warner's pretty good. It'd be like, oh, no, you think so? You know, it's so, you know, from that side, they've got that added edge because Shanahan, you know, maybe doesn't know the Dolphins players anywhere near as close as McDaniels is going to know the opposite side that he's going up against. It will be a really tough game. I'm really surprised they didn't flex it to the Sunday night game.
Yeah.
I thought it was a shoe-in for that, to be honest, but there you go.
They did flex the game as well, didn't they?
So was that sorry?
They did flex the game. Did they not change the game from? I think it was going to be the Chiefs, and they changed it out.
I think it was going to be the Chiefs and the Broncos, and then they flexed it to the Cowboys, I think.
Oh, was it
The
the Cowboys?
Cowboys, yeah.
Because the Dolphins have got next week's game as the pick.
Right.
Yeah, but then the Bills have got 2 Thursday night games in a row because of Thanksgiving last week and they're playing again tonight.
Yeah. So it's a bit of an odd one. But yeah, I mean, from my side, it's great because it means it's not on Sky and we can actually get to watch the whole game rather than 3/4 of it because inevitably it's a late game
I don't know why
Sky.
you can't watch the Sky games, but I can watch them no bother. It's just weird.
Because we're always the late game. It's the late game. It's always the late game.
Yeah, but
I cause you're West
Orkney's not
Coast.
as Scotland.
Yeah, being out in the West Coast, it's always a late game, isn't it? It's
always.
What about Mitchell though, Gary? Mitchell back in, back out again.
Yeah, so that's him.
It's
6
the
to
running
8,
back
they're in
curse.
6 to 8.
6 to 8. Oh, geez.
Yeah.
The running back curse in the Bay
It
Area.
just breaks them. Yeah, just break.
I'm waiting for
Mm.
McCaffrey to snap in half soon.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
he's dealing with
well,
knee irritation all week. He's been dealing with, so he's light practice, but he may or may not go. He may not suit up. So
I think
yeah,
he'll
it's
like
next man up. It will play, but it won't be. He won't be fully doing all the snaps. So Mason's going to have to step in.
It's rookie Mason to step up, isn't it? That's
Very
going to
much.
be interesting.
Mason, and I've got a feeling we'll probably activate Coleman off the practice squad because I don't think Davis Price is quite right from his injury. So I think Coleman will get activated up again. So, I mean, that Jeff Wilson trade to Miami is looking pretty bitter at the moment because he's rolling in Miami.
And Mostert.
And Mostert, it is just like an old boys reunion. They've got Sherfield out in their wide receiver core and Claycraft as well. There's a number of reunions going on, so it will be a tough game. I don't really think, although it's at home and all that sort of stuff, I do have an inkling that we may not beat the Dolphins. I just think their high-powered offense is going to be a real test for our defense. It have been playing lights out, but they might be able to get.
What's the weather going to be like?
Pouring down.
Pouring down. Is it going to be cold?
It's certainly going to be wet. Yeah, it might affect. It's certainly going to be wet, which may affect the ball and obviously everything else. So it could be a bit of a mud bath.
Going from Miami to there might be a bit of a shock to some of the systems.
Yeah.
Miami gets the rain as well, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, but they get warm rain or cold rain.
They get warm rain. They don't get the Pacific cold.
I'm assuming is it your game or the game before where they were over? Were they playing the Chargers last time?
Yeah.
So they've stayed over there, so they'll probably
yeah.
Oh, they'll thermals on.
Miami are one of these teams as well. They tend to beat the teams that they should lose to, and they lose to the teams that they should beat. That's kind of the way Miami are. So it kind of it wouldn't surprise me if they come out and won this game this week.
I do just want to. I want to raise one thing about the Saints match because I mean, what you did against the Saints was brilliant. I mean, to go 6 quarters now without conceding a single point is fantastic by any means, and to have 4 games where it's a complete shutout second half, excellent stats. But you got extremely lucky in the first half with a very poor call, very, very poor call, and that tipped the game for me. I absolutely destroyed the Saints, and it really bothered me seeing that happen. But I had to.
It was. I mean, to be honest, you can argue that it was a very bad call, and it invigorated the Niners, and we got away with it. And Jimmy still hasn't officially thrown an interception in 4 games now.
Not like
apart from the really blatant obvious one that he threw against the Saints, which was pulled back. But then again, was there a couple of hits there that he should have got roughing the passer on? Because he did take a fair beating against the Saints. Our offensive line was cheese. There was some shots and some hits that he took and stood in there and took them. But the one he took to his knee, I thought was a bit of a nasty one, and I'm surprised it didn't get flagged on because it did look like it was almost targeting his knee, and he got away. He got back in and kept going, and leant on the defense. The defense, lights out, stopping the Saints scoring. So 13 points. You know, you feel for the New Orleans defense because you think we've held a team to 13 points and still not won. You know, so obviously the offense in New Orleans is just.
I honestly don't know what's going on there. I mean, why? I mean, don't get me wrong. Winston is not exactly. He's not a top quality QB, but he's better than Andy Dalton. And I don't know what's gone on there for him to not be picked as Randy Dalton.
He must have upset somebody because, as you say, he might not be elite level. He might not be top 10 or whatever else. But Andy Dalton is mid to low level max, right?
But he'll throw the ball down the field. Can you maybe throw 6 touchdowns, but like 7 interceptions? At least it'll be entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, Winston in his best year, wasn't it something like
30 and 30 or something?
Yeah, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. I mean, it's not great stats wise, but it makes for entertaining football. And at least
he likes to throw the ball down the field, like, you know what I mean. So Olave.
The thing is, Winston has a big arm on him, and Olave is a deep ball receiver.
He's a good receiver.
Nail it to him every time.
Just play action and lob it down the field. I mean, it's simple football. I mean, I don't understand.
He's one of my favourite rookies to watch this year, Olave, right? It's just so good.
I think there's. I mean, I've got a couple of Saints fans as friends, and I genuinely do think that they thought that they thought he was going to be a good head coach, and because he obviously knew the whole Peyton, he obviously was there. There's
a few head coaches that are on the block, I think, aren't they? He's got to be one of them.
Yeah,
it's difficult to come in after a guy like a guy who's had the franchise in his hands and he's taken it places. It's like who wants to be the next guy after Bill Belichick in New England?
It's going to have to happen, but who? And that shadow is going to be there. And the weird thing with Peyton is he hasn't been fired. He's not left. He's just
no. If he comes back,
coaching,
he's still officially there.
He's still officially the head coach. It's like
if he was to be, if someone else wanted to pick him up next year, they would have to pay a first for him, and that's good. That's power for the Saints. I mean, to be able to keep someone like Peyton unavailable to other franchises unless they want to pay big for him is good for them.
It is good. But then again, you can look at
it. Next year, he'll be going to that. He'll be the Dallas Cowboys head coach next year. I'm pretty much convinced of that.
It'd be quite an interesting one. You imagine if Pete Carroll says, "All right, this year I've had enough," and they use one of their Denver first rounders and go, "All right, Sean Payton, come up northwest, and here's a reasonably decent team already. See what you can do with a." Nobody likes the Seahawks. Nobody likes Sean Payton. So it's a match. It's an interesting match made in heaven for you. Just throw that out there. Not that I want him in the NFC West by any stretch of the imagination. So ideally, somewhere in the AFC would be great. Someone else.
Let him go to the Broncos.
Yeah.
Not that they can afford him, but
no, I don't think he'll go anywhere near Russell. The dumpster fire that is Russell Wilson right now.
No. I mean, to be fair. If Belichick was to go, I mean, him going to the Pats would be very, very interesting as a move.
Well, a team. Yeah, that's it. I mean, you go Sam.
After that comment, you deserve to hang up on that.
He's back.
But yeah, no, it would be an interesting one if he went to the Patriots, like, but. Then they might actually get some coaching staff instead of like 3 people that they've got a clue what they're doing. Go Judge and all that. Come on, seriously.
Him and Jerry Jones have got it in play already. He's going to be the Dallas Cowboys head coach next year.
And there's guaranteed.
No, don't want him in the East, like, bugger off.
It's guaranteed TV. Wherever he goes, it's going to be guaranteed TV and it's going to be guaranteed blockbuster stuff, isn't it? So, you wonder... OBJ, Jerry Jones, Sean Payton in Dallas. I mean, there's hard knocks already written near enough for you, right? It
overpowers that. Got his quarterback as well, and it maybe takes a bit of pressure off him because he'll not have so much of the cameras in his face all the time.
And the story will be somewhere else. It won't be Dak, will it?
Yeah.
Interesting. So, how do you feel about this week then, gents? Before we wrap up, I know Sam, you probably just want the season to be done with.
I mean, if we could get a cheeky win over the Saints, over the Seahawks, that'd be quite nice. Just there's a nice little stick up to the end of the season.
I'd be happy with that too. Yeah.
Oh, certainly, I'm more than happy if you could take, give it to the Seahawks. Absolutely, it gives us 2 games ahead of them. Then, yeah.
I'm looking forward to next week a lot more so than this week.
That's the bye week, right?
The bye week.
So you're feeling confident enough that you'll beat the Bears, but you'll be looking forward to having a weekend off.
I have picked the Packers and the pigskin pick'em, so I'll put it there and leave it at that.
Well, I picked the Redskins, so.
No,
you mean the Commanders? You make the Washington Commanders, not the Redskins.
Yeah, sorry, the Commanders. I'd rather pick the Redskins, to be honest. But then, having said that, I've also picked the Raiders to beat the Chargers.
That's a bold call.
That's a big call.
They usually have a good shootout. So.
Yeah, that's true.
And they beat them last year, so and the big game for the playoffs. So.
Yeah, it was the win or bust game, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Chargers have been a bit disappointing, really, though, haven't they? I mean, I know they've had a lot of injuries to key players, but they've been a bit disappointing.
That whole AFC East, I thought, has been a bit disappointing because it was so built up to be the shootout tournament division and
best division
ever. You got Herbert, Carr, Wilson, and you're like, oh, it's just
and then Mahomes has just decided that he's just going to take over as he does every year.
Put this to bed. This is what it takes.
Excuse me. All of these star quarterbacks. No. This is my division.
There's one star quarterback in this division, and then there's 3 others.
He's like, settle down, kids. This is my division.
Yeah. And it has been a marker division. It has been a marker year for the Chiefs against a lot of his. I mean, the dumpster fire in Denver, I don't think anybody really saw coming, but unless maybe Pete Carroll. The only thing you can say there is maybe Pete Carroll and Seattle grifted the Denver Broncos brilliantly. Maybe knew that Russell was on his.
Well, they had the choice of Russell or Carroll, and they kept Carroll. So.
Yeah, which says it all, doesn't it?
I think. I mean, Carroll's done wonders with that team. To be fair, I think it's I still think that there's more to it with the whole Wilson and Broncos thing. I don't think Wilson's washed up. I think it's like I said. I wouldn't be surprised if the Denver head coach goes and they find someone else to replace him and you'll probably see a much different Russ and a much different Broncos next year.
Could be. I mean, you have to see a different Russ, right? Because he's not going anywhere with his $256 million guaranteed contract or whatever it was he got. And, maybe it was the head coach came over from Green Bay and the expectation was Aaron was going with him and that didn't happen. And then suddenly it was like, oh, who else can we get to, plug in that should do the same thing? And it obviously wasn't Russell.
For me, with Russell Wilson, we all say it's always Russell Wilson. We seem to forget the Legion of Boom. Well,
weren't bad. And Marshawn Lynch wasn't bad either, was he? So
Marshawn Lynch. There's big reasons why they. You look back on it. Russell Wilson's ego made him throw that ball in the second Super Bowl, or they would have had 2. Hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch and you win a Super Bowl. But no, Russell Wilson wants to applaud it, so he's going to throw it. He throws an interception and the game's over. I'm not so sure he was ever the superstar he seems to be made out to be.
As I say, I think from a Niners perspective, yes, he bloody well was. Unfortunately, he had our number for 10 years. He really was. But yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, Pete Carroll in the shout for Coach of the Year, even not just for what he's done with the team he's got, but for just being able to pull the plug and go, all right, Russell, you want to leave? We'll fleece the Broncos because we've seen something. I think I can't remember who it was. It was one of the podcasts. It might have been Florio on Pro Football Talk. He said, "Good coaches don't let good players go that still have an upside." Yeah. And you just think Carroll knew that Russell had either peaked or has gone, or this year was 1 year too far. Pulled the plug, got an absolute barnstorming deal for him, and look what's happened. He's looking, a genius right now.
As well, you know what I mean? He's playing to Gino's strengths. You know, I mean, he's not forced not to do anything. He doesn't.
Yep.
He's not
said to Gino, go out and be Russell Wilson. He's just
he's just
Gino.
getting them to play. He's making the throws, and he's playing really well. So surprised a lot of people
that kind of coaching was born in San Francisco, wasn't it, Gary? You know, that was Bill Walsh's mantra, wasn't it? Once I think you're past it, you're gone, you're out of here. You get rid of Joe Montana, you get rid of Jerry Rice.
Big names. Nobody was bigger than a team when it was your time.
I mean, to be fair, we did it.
Should be like that, though. So.
We did it with Todd Gurley, didn't we?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, you think about how big he was. I mean, no, he had the injury, but how big he was, and we got rid of him, and he was absolute trash afterwards. So
many have done it. Look at Le'Veon Bell. Pittsburgh said, "No, I'm not having that. Away you go. You're not that good," and disappeared off the planet.
No player is bigger than a team. No player should be bigger than a franchise. Should they, Craig?
Well, that's the way it
should they, Craig?
Yeah. Tell that to Green Bay.
Apart from the quarterback in Green Bay. All right, gents, it's been a great laugh. I appreciate your time. This has been Variety Sports Network. I appreciate anybody who's tuned in and watched. And we'll be back next week when we talk by weeks where we all stand, and I suppose.
Injuries.
Well, hopefully when Chicago beat Green Bay, and that's Aaron Rodgers done for the season.
the end of A-Rod. Could that be what we talk about next week? Tune in and find out.